Welcome to my channel and welcome to my website. My name is Daryl and this is Programming in Any Language. The website is www.black-duck.com. It's where you'll find all my videos organized in logical order. You can begin with the basics and then move on to advanced concepts. You can also start with the speed track and build an application from scratch, which should pique your curiosity with a desire to learn more. Passing arguments to methods. Why? That void method we saw last time worked so well, why mess it up? Well, actually, up to now, we've been placing variables at the top of our form class so they could be seen by all methods in our class. That made it easy for us to work with variables and learn how to use them. But it actually exposed our variables to potential problems. As your programs get bigger and bigger, and they will as you get experience, the concept of keeping our variables up top in the class mean that any routine could change them. And when you spend 2 months writing a program, it is very likely that you will forget why some of those variables are there. Let's imagine that you have a program that calculates a price for a product by including a sales tax in that price. And let's assume you store that sales tax in a global variable at the top of your program. Now let's imagine that your program is very big and you have a routine that uses a different sales tax amount. If it stores the new amount in your global variable, that global variable will be changed, and your original routine will end up using the new value. It's not a problem if you never use it again, but if your problem needs the original value, it's gone. A better and safer way to program is to create variables in your methods and events directly in them. If you need to share them with another routine, you can pass the value, not the variable, the value, to the new method. It can do what it wants with that data, but it will never damage what you originally have stored in that variable. Let's clear this up by taking a look. Okay, we're going to look at passing arguments to methods. And let's get some background on this first. An argument is really any piece of data that's passed into a method when the method's called. Take a look at the screen right here. We've got the following step. We've got a message box, .show, and we've used that before. And what we did there is we called the message box .show method and added a parameter, a statement we wanted the program to say, like invalid numerics, or the wrong number, or you entered the wrong thing, something of that nature. So we've been using them up to this point. We're using parameters. A parameter is a variable that receives an argument that is passed to the method. Take a look at the following one right here with the display value. We've got basically a method right here that says display value, and it's expecting an integer called value. And what it's going to do then, it's going to actually execute this code, messagebox.show, the value, and it's going to convert it to string and then print it out for you. It's a very simple, straightforward kind of thing. And what calls it? Basically in our code we have something like display value and put the number 5 in there as a parameter. This thing would get the 5 in value, and it would begin to process it and create a string for us and put it on the screen. We can look at contents of variables as arguments. We can pass the contents of variables as arguments. For example, we've got an integer, x equals 5. We're going to go ahead and establish that in our program. And our program is going to say display value. It's going to call the method display value, and it's going to pass it x, which happens to be a 5 in there. We can also call it again and say display value x times 4, which will multiply 5 times 4 and actually pass a 20 to it. The method that's getting it looks like this guy over here. Private void display value. It's expecting an integer called value. We pass the x to it. It took the 5, put it in here, displayed it, converted it to a string, and displayed 5 on the screen. It took the x times 4 as a value. That's 20. And it did the same thing. It converted to string, and we saw a 20 on our screen. Value is an integer parameter in the display value method. In this example, x is the integer variable, and the value is 5. Its contents are passed as an argument. The expression x times 4 also produces an integer result. This can be passed as an argument. Another way is also you can do this as display value int.parse 700. Notice the quotes are on 700. You're bringing a string in, but you're parsing it into an integer. So you're getting that data type the same. So you could be reading a file, for example, from disk, or bringing something in from a screen from the user, where the user types in 700, and we convert that to an integer, and then we can use it to display that value on the screen. All kind of simple little stuff. We'll get to see a practical example shortly. Arguments and parameter data types compatibility. This goes a long way to what we've been talking about anytime we've worked with data types. You can only pass string arguments into string parameters. You can only pass integer arguments into integer parameters. You cannot pass doubles or decimals arguments into integer parameters. If you think back to our basics, an integer is so many bytes long. A double is many, many more bytes than that. An integer is like 4 bytes. A double is, what, 8? And a decimal is like 16 bytes long. You can't cram 16 into 4. It's just that simple. That's why you can't do it. You can pass either a double or an integer argument into a double parameter, but you cannot pass decimal values into the double parameter. Same reason. The decimal is simply too big. It won't fit in the double. You can pass either decimal or integer values into decimal parameters, but you cannot pass doubles arguments into decimal parameters. Just think of the size. If you want to go back to the videos on data types, and you'll see the difference and why those sizes are there, and that'll make some sense to you if you're having a problem with that. We can also pass multiple arguments, and this is what we're going to get to in our little program that we're going to be looking at shortly. You can pass more than one argument into a method. Here we have a private void show button. We have actually a show button here, an event, and a show button to event here. In this case, we are going to call a method called showMax and pass it a 5 and a 10. In this one, we have two integer values that we're going to make equal 2 and 3. In the first one, we call showMax and pass the actual values, 5 and 10. Here's the method. It grabs, it's expecting integer as num1, and integer as num2. It set up its own variables. So the 5 goes into num1, the 10 goes into num2, and then it does what it has to, whatever the code is underneath that. In the case of showButton2 calling it, we have value 1 and value 2 with data in. Value 1 has 2 in it, value 2 is 2 in it. When we call showMax, value 1 gets sent to num1. Num1 becomes the 2, the num2 becomes a 3, and it does whatever it has to do as well as we go through that thing. That brings us to our retail price calculator. We saw this last time, but now we're going to do something different. Notice that our program is almost unchanged with a couple of minor differences. We have our global variable right here with double retail price, but that's the only value inside the global variable. We have event variables. The wholesale cost and the markup percent are sitting here in the button event variables. And we also have variables in the method, DBL double WC and DBL MP. This stands for wholesale cost, and MP stands for markup percent. So we're giving them different names. They could be the same names. These are private to the method, and these are private to the button right here. So we only are using one global variable. We're doing the same thing we did before. We're not even going to change. In fact, we're going to take a copy of the program and make subtle changes to the variables. That's really all we're going to do when we call these methods. So we're going to do our check here to see if the data is coming in right when we get it from our user. And we're going to go back if something's wrong and simply get the data again from the user. Otherwise, we're going to go ahead and calculate retail. And we'll go along this line again, calculating it, come back, and the results will then be displayed on the screen. So let's take a look at this and see what our program can look like. Here's our retail price calculator program. I'm going to go to the code right now. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to make some subtle changes here. I'm going to take the wholesale cost and the markup percent and comment them out. We won't remove them. We'll just comment them out. Now they're gone. They can't be used. We won't see those things. Might even have some errors down here. Yeah, we do. We do have errors down here. That's okay. What we're going to do now is we're going to go down to the button calculate event. Remember we said we were going to put some variables in there to make this thing work. So what we're going to actually do is I'm going to actually go ahead and cheat a little bit and copy these guys and take away that. I'm going to get a copy here, go down to my event right here, my button calculate, and pop them in here and get rid of those comments here. So these things have actually moved into this area. They're still up here, commented out, so we're not going to have the road. We have double retail price sitting up here, so that's going to be there. But now our guy down here has a couple of variables. And notice our errors went away. We don't seem to have any problems anymore because we have these variables sitting here private to the button calculate event. No other event can see this. Let's take a look down here. Here's our method. It's full of errors. There's nothing down there to do anything because we're not passing any parameters. We're going to make some subtle changes to this one as well. First of all, we're going to take our call to calculate retail, which we have right here. And inside here, we're going to place these two variables. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to type in DBL wholesale cost. And I'm going to give it a comma. And I'm going to add DBL markup percent. And now we have our two variables. And we still have an error right here. Why do we have an error? Probably because we still have an error in the method. And we do. It's sitting down here because it's not receiving anything. So we need to go down here and give it some variables. So what we're going to do is we're going to give it the variables double DBLWC for wholesale cost and comma double DBLMP for markup price. These guys are going to get changed. We could use any variables. We could have passed it the names of those things, but to let you understand that the variables are private here, we're going to actually change the name of these things and call this thing WC. And we're going to change this one to WC too because it is the wholesale cost. And we're going to change this one right here to MP, markup percent. And this thing looks good now. So what it's doing, we'll give it a return statement on here too, just so it has it. You don't really need it, but it's good practice to put it in there. So later on we're going to be learning how we can actually send things back. So now what's happening is it's going to calculate retail price in the global variable double retail price. But we're passing data to this thing, so it's actually going to do the multiplication and the division here and then convert it this way. If we go back to our original program where we called it, we can see calculate wholesale cost, double markup percent are here, and they're passing that data. Let's run it once, and then I'll put the debugger on, and we'll take a look at how this actually works. We start the program. It comes alive, and we'll put in a wholesale cost. We bought something for $100, and we have a markup percent of $5 or 5% on it. So let's go ahead and do that. We'll calculate that, and we get 105. Works just the same as the last time we did this. You don't see any difference here. But let's take a look inside and see what's going on. I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to put a breakpoint in our button calculate routine so we can follow this through. And I'm going to run this thing again. This time we're going to use a watch list and take a look and see what's actually happening. So I'm running the program. Here it is. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put my 100 in here. And I'm going to put my 5% in here. And then I'm going to calculate retail. The program stops right here, as you can see. I'm going to press F11, and it jumps down to this particular routine right here. Now, I'd like to see some things. When I'm going to go up here, I'm going to go up here and take my retail price, right-click on it, and add it to my watch. Now we're going to get a watch list on here, and there's that data is going to be sitting right here. We can see it double. There's nothing in it. I'm also going to go down here, and I'm going to take my wholesale cost and add it to my watch. And the same thing with my markup percent. I'm going to add it to my watch. Now I'm going to go down to that routine down here, and I'm going to take WC and add that to a watch. And I'm going to take DBLMP, the markup percent, and add that to a watch. All those things are in here. Now, if you look closely, we'll go back up here to our program where we actually are. We have X's that look like errors here in the DBLWC and DBLMP. That's because we are not in this program right now. We haven't gotten into that routine. But we do have these things, so we're actually in the event, the button click event. Now if I start to press F11, I'm going to step through this one line at a time. I'll go through there, and it brings in the wholesale cost. So we got 100 came in here. So we can see that. I'll press F11 again, and it's going to go ahead and parse the markup percent and bring that in from the user. And indeed, we get a 5 pops in there. Now it goes through its checking to see if it's greater than 0, less than 0, all that good stuff we need. And it's fine. So it's going to go ahead and it's going to calculate wholesale cost. So we're going to go ahead and pass these two things out to the method. So we're going to calculate retail. I'll press F11. She jumps down to this routine. And notice that we have 105 sitting in DBLWC. They're also in wholesale cost and markup percent. They're in the original routine, which is up here. But they're also in here. Copies of that data came down or passed to this routine. Interesting. So we really passed the values of 105 down to this routine. This routine then goes ahead and calculates them as I press F11, and we get a double retail price. 105 gets put into the value of DBL retail price. So it's been established up in the global variable right here. We return, and we come back up to here. It finishes this line, goes down to the retail price, and gets ready to print it out on the screen. We hit F11 to step through this, finish this routine, and we get done, and the program comes up, displayed, and there's our results, 105. So what you saw there is you saw the user enter two variables, 105, two pieces of data, two integers. I guess they were doubles. They were passed into the program. The program accepted them, checked them for values and everything, and then rather than do anything with them, it passed them down to a method, passed the contents, so that those values were sitting down there in the method that's going to do all the calculations for us. The calculating method grabbed them, calculated the retail cost and retail price rather, and then did that right into the global routine, and we are all set. So that's how you actually pass variables to a routine, from one to another, and very straightforward, fairly simple once you get the concept down, once you get the understanding down. So that's really all it takes. Let's be a little clearer now. That's how you pass data to a method. Now, purists would have you create a global variable all the time. And if you are a purist, have at it. I myself tend to place my variables in the methods and events that I'm creating. However, I also can see where it makes sense to use a global variable from time to time. And when I do, I make sure I comment them well. Next time, we're going to go a step further with passing variables. We're going to learn how to return a value from a method. Return a value. In other words, we'll modify our program to use no global variables at all. None. I'll see you in that next video. Thanks for watching. Hey, and don't forget to use the website for easy access to all my videos. And if you get a chance, please subscribe. That way you will be notified when something new is available. We'll see you in the next video. Take care.